What's today all about? Well, about a year ago, actually it was March 19th, 2020, when we finally recognized, this pandemic is going to be a real problem. I completely revamped what I was about to teach you, what I was going to do over the course of the next few months, because I knew you were going to need some different kind of teaching. And before I wanted to teach it to you, I wanted to tell you what I thought the world was going to look like. What industries were going to thrive, which ones were going to take a nosedive, what was going to happen to your jobs, everything from how you were going to have to adjust the way you were interviewing. You were going to have to get used to doing this, right? So all of that is there if you want to go back and see if it was accurate. Or you could just zip down and look at the comments for people who've been watching that stuff a year later and what they had to say about it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give you, now that we're a year into this, and I'd like to say coming out of this, right? It's going to linger for a while, but hopes are high and people are getting vaccinated. So I want to share with you what I'm seeing in the different markets, how they're going to affect employment, what that's going to mean for employers in the way in which they recruit, who they hire, and what that means to you. And if you are running your own business, or if you are happy in your job, this all is going to apply, because there are going to be adjustments that are going to be made, choices you're going to need to make. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I didn't know I was going to do this today. So if you're here with me live, it's Thursday, what used to be tax day in the US, April 15th. You might be watching this on a recording on a Tuesday or something like that when we re-release the clip. But I got my first vaccination shot last Saturday, and I wrote you an email about this and what it meant to me, and so I'm in Illinois. You know, that I was not eligible to get the shot until recently. You know, finally they dipped down into my age bracket, so I made my appointment and I went to go into the center to get my shot. And as I was about to get my shot, I'm a watcher, so I like to look. You know, when I give blood, I look at the needle. I'm all for that stuff. And there was this woman, Mary, and she was going to administer the shot, and she was about to give me the shot, and I thought to myself, you know, I'm watching her as she's putting this needle in my arm. It's like she's moving in slow motion, although my guess is she was probably about to jab me pretty quickly. And it was like scenes out of like a movie. There was all these scenes that flashed before my eyes, and I thought about my dogs as they race out of their crate every time I open it. I think about my wife every single day telling me to hurry up and go get my shot because she wants to go travel. I think about my family who I want to visit on the West Coast in the U.S. I have a lot of siblings and nieces and nephews and in-laws out there. I thought about last week, 80% of my coaching sessions with people in my boot camp program were about how do I deal with all of these job offers. I'm not kidding you. 2, 3, 4 job offers for some of these folks. 8 out of 10 of those were addressing that kind of issue, so to speak. And I was thinking about you all and what the changes you're going through and what we're seeing as you go to the job market. And I thought about the summer, and I thought about why August was going to be such a difficult month to actually get a job. All that happened in seconds. And I'll share with you what that, you know, collage of stuff meant to me, but it was fairly emotional, and it was as if I was seeing what we were about to encounter. And I thought, all right, so I came back home, I jotted a few notes, which is something I normally do because I like to unload the stuff as I see it. And then Sunday when I got up, I sketched out this talk and this talk, and actually tomorrow's talk for people in my premium coaching session. And so, you know, I got the shot. These scenes went through my head. I sat down in the chair because I was going to wait the 15 minutes to make sure that I didn't have a reaction to the shot. And I pulled up my phone. Like, I want to see now that I'm getting the shot, and I've been semi-paying attention to what's been happening, but I haven't been looking, at the charts like I normally do, at the housing markets, at the stock markets, at the jobs markets, which I normally pay attention to on a monthly basis. But I whip up my phone and I start looking at how many people got their vaccination shot today. 3.4 million on the day I got it, or the day before I got it, I should say. How many people got it the days before that, leading up to that? It says rolling weekly average was 3 million people per day in the U.S. I'm thinking that's 100 million people in the next month. Let's say things go well. There's only so many hundreds of millions of people in the United States, and while I don't know what's going on in every other country, this is a pretty good trend. And then I'm thinking about, well, how many people are already vaccinated? 20%. And then how many people are partially vaccinated like I am? 33%. So these numbers are starting to climb. And I was feeling energetic. It was literally for the first time that it actually hit me that we are coming out of this, because it became real for me. Now, you may have discovered this previously, or you still may not be there yet, but either which way, I'm telling you, this is what happened to me. So I started to look at trends in the markets, because I want to figure out, well, what's been happening, right? I've been coaching my job candidates, clients, people in the Mile Walk Academy. We've been tactical, we've been prescriptive, we've been helping them in those cases, but I wanted to really try to start to see were we going to be encountering any trends. So I get my phone. Now, when I didn't need this for what I'm about to tell you, I didn't need my phone for this. The stock market, now, by the way, put your checkbooks away. I'm not dispensing any financial advice here, so no, you ain't pinning that on me. I'm telling you that in my experience, as I've watched the markets through my life, basically there's two real things that drive them: sentiment and interest rates. Forget fundamentals for a second. While fundamentals might drive stock prices and valuations and things of that nature in the long run, in the short run, it's usually about how people feel and what the interest rates are. Interest rates are pretty low. They're dang low. I can't remember them ever being this low for this long. And sentiment is starting to lift up. So, okay, so far so good. Then I started to think about the housing market. Now, I've been in my house for about 4 years. I don't watch my house value go up and down. I'm not one of those people. I don't really care. I don't really care what the neighbor sold their house for and any of that stuff. But I thought the housing market is going to affect the job seekers. So I want to get a better understanding of what's actually happening. So I look at the housing market. You may or may not know this, but inventory of homes is at an all-time low. This matters to you, and I'll bring this together for you as we get later in the talk. But inventory is at an all-time low. Most houses are selling within a week. So then I go back a week or so. Beginning of April, numbers show that 42% of homes are selling for more than their asking price. That's pretty interesting, right? Interest rate borrowing rates are super low. I refinanced my house last summer to some ridiculous low rate I never thought I would ever see in my lifetime. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, my neighbor, now I'm thinking, all right, close to home examples. My neighbor, interesting story, his name's Mark. Now, I've known Mark since about 2005 or 2006, and really funny story is I recruited him into the job that he is in right now in 2008. So he's been there for 13 years or so. And 4 years ago, I happened to move next door to him. Okay, really funny, haha. Okay, so he's a single dad, he's got 3 boys. 2 of the boys are kind of college-y age, and one of them is about to be a senior in high school. We pay these ridiculous taxes in where I live, and there's no need if your kids, unless you're a LaCivita or your kids don't go to school, I wouldn't be paying these taxes. So he decides, hey, I might think about putting my house on the market. So the resident real estate agent who's in our little cul-de-sac area here, who actually sold me this house, she says to Mark, well, why don't we just kind of put it on the private listing? Maybe I'll toss it on my Facebook page. Let's see what we can, what happens, what kind of reaction we get. Now, Mark's got a brand new deck and he's got a fully new remodeled basement. He didn't even bother to put those pictures up online. The front lawn is a bit in shambles. A lot of that's going to need to be replaced. Just go with the old pictures from, like, I don't know, 12 years ago and put them up and see what happens. First buyer comes in, this woman, and she said she and husband, they give Mark an offer. He says, no. He's the first person that looked at this house. I'm not even like, I wasn't even emotionally ready to sell it, but I appreciate your offer. They came back the next day. They said, we'll give you full asking price for it. Husband didn't even bother looking at the basement, and boom, house is sold. Literally, just like that, no stress. Now, this stuff is gonna matter to you. It really is. You need to know this if you are considering moving or considering a job in a different city or state. These things are going to matter. So then I start to look at the job trends. And I don't know if you know this, but between 2009 and 2019 was the largest single job expansion in the history of it ever being recorded. It was the greatest economic upswing for most consecutive months ever. And COVID in 2020 literally wiped out every single job that had been created in the previous 10 years. Okay, so think about that. That pissed me off, right? Because this isn't 2001 where the bubble was hollow and people were creating these companies that had absolutely no intrinsic value, the dot-com bubble where they were going public or they were selling them. They weren't even profitable. They basically made nothing. And I'm not talking about that. We deserve to take a shot in the jaw when we do stuff like that. But the last 10, 11 years, we worked hard. The fundamentals are sound. The stock market is good. The valuations are fine, and people and business owners and companies were creating those jobs through sweat. Okay, there's a very, very big difference in the recovery period of something that was foundationally solid, where something as extrinsic as COVID occurs and wipes it out just like that, and wipes out industries. And a lot of you probably watched me for a long time, right, during those days. As you were starting to look for a job because you were suddenly out of a job and you didn't have any clue that that was going to happen weeks prior. So you think about all these things, and was it mean to you? Well, I'm telling you that my guess is we are about to experience the biggest boom. Maybe that, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing that this is going to be something like what happened after World War II, because you have to consider, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, right? So you have to consider what were the factors that were going on at that time. So I told you about my dogs, right? So here I am. This is my office. That's the breakfast room, we call it, and then the kitchen is that way. And their little crate sits there, and whenever I leave the house, they like being in the crate. It's their safe place. It doesn't matter if they're in the crate 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if they're in the crate 4 hours. It doesn't make any difference. When I come home, I open that thing up, I open the gate, and they race out. And they run 10 feet, and they stop, and they turn around, and they look at me. Because they don't know if we're going for a walk, or the porch potty, or if we're going to the food bowls, or if we're coming into Daddy's office. Right? But they blitz out like caged crazy animals, which they are. I mean, like, it's nuts. And that's kind of how I'm thinking the world is today, right? We have this, we're emotionally frustrated, we're pent up, cooped up, we're missing our friends, we're missing our family, we're missing traveling, we're missing seeing different things. And so I think the next handful of months, 3 months are, I normally tell you January and February are great times to be looking for work. But I'm telling you that I think April, May, June, and July are going to be really, really good months for some industries in particular. And I think by the time August rolls around, as people have started to get their vaccination shots and they wait that customary 2-week period to feel better, I was not willing to get on a plane. I will not take any chances. I always tell my wife, my people need me. I can't go down, and I realize everybody's life's different and everybody's family situation is different, and some of you have to get on planes, but I didn't want to do that. Right? So I think there's a lot of people like me, and once they feel more comfortable, they'll start traveling again. And I also think that people that are working, that are now getting their shots, they're going to start taking their vacations over the summer. A lot of them are going to take them in August, which is actually a common time to take them anyway, because the kids are about to go back to school. So we've got this surge of emotion. We've got healthy markets in general, or ones that should be popping back quickly. We've got just people that are excited. to start seeing their family and friends again. And we've got people who've not been on vacation in a long time, and they got Zoom fatigue and all that other stuff that they're dealing with. So what does this all mean? Well, I want to give you my observations on what industries and markets I think are going to thrive, and some things that I want you to be careful with and explore or not, depending on your preferences. So let's get into that. And I hope, I hope you guys are as excited about this stuff as I am. Because I think we're in for something, dare I say, special. I really do. All right, so let's get into what I think about. Hang on, let me just make sure everything is okay. Let me get into what I think about the industries. All right, so what does this mean? So I got note cards today. I had to write them vertically today. But, okay, there's obvious ones, right? Okay, these are the obvious ones, all right? And by the way, a lot of what I'm going to tell you today is probably not going to blow you over. If you look at things, you will draw these conclusions. What I'm hoping happens is either you didn't take the time to think about it and I put a little spotlight or I illuminated it for you, or what I'm guessing what a lot of you are going to say is, yeah, that makes sense, but you won't say that until after I say what I'm going to say. So just roll with me on these, but here's the obvious ones, right? Pharma, IT, green energy, and government. These are big ones. The government, we have a lot of cleaning up to do. I paid my taxes today. A lot of people aren't paying their taxes for a month, but I think a lot of the personal protection employment loans. We've got all kinds of things that have occurred because of COVID. And the government is going to have to clean some of this up, and they're going to have to work a little extra hard to do that. New programs they've put in place. Every single thing that I do, I had to get some charges cleaned up on a credit card. Okay, now I'm dealing with Chase, my bank, except that the Chase folks have had a domino effect because all the people that were working in the credit card department, some of them had to be reallocated to the employment loan department, and things were taking longer, and my bankers are communicating with me. Like, there's a domino effect. Well, a lot of this goes back to regulations that the government has put in place or programs that the government has allowed. So you need to remember that. Okay, so these are some of the obvious ones. If you're looking in these areas, you're in good shape. Okay, if you are anything, can I get a shout? All the ladies, and I'll go right there with you. Are you tired of wearing yoga pants? Right? I have to decide what color sweats I'm going to wear on any given day. And I'm a little tired of it. I haven't bought a pair of jeans that I couldn't tell you how long. I got to buy myself some t-shirts because you guys see me every day, so I have to wear different colors. But can I get a hallelujah for revenge shopping? Right? Like, are we going to go out and go nuts? Now, this is actually an interesting phenomenon, right? Fashion itself should pick up. Fashion industry, but retail as it relates to fashion and retail as it relates to other stuff. You're going to start going out and buying stuff you don't need. And why are you going to do that? Well, number one, you're tired of being cooped up. You want some new stuff. Okay, this is some totally emotional purchases, right? I'm going to buy things that I probably don't need, but I'm just a little tired of not having anything new in my life, and I just want, I want a little something for Andy kind of thing. My wife's really good at it. It doesn't matter, pandemic, hurricane, it makes no difference. She should be teaching you how to shop. But think about this. People are going to be in malls. I couldn't tell you the last time I was actually in a store looking at a shirt. Now, people are probably going to go to stores just to go to stores. Okay? They're going to be breezing around, window shopping, so to speak. When you're in the store, you buy stuff you don't need. So I think there's going to be a huge revenge shopping, imprint that it's going to be out there. So those of you that are in retail, thinking about getting into retail, thinking about getting into fashion, those kind of things, I think there will be huge upswing here, right? Amazon's always going to be there, but it ain't the same when I go in and, you can try it on and see how it looks on you, right? Isn't it a little bit of a bummer when you get that shirt, right, in the Amazon box and you put it on and it doesn't look as good as you thought it would, right? That kind of stuff. All right, how about the communal stuff? anything communal related that took major hits. Okay, live events. These could be, well, they could be like weddings and stuff, but it could be conferences, seminars, and those kind of things, right? Event planning is gonna come back quickly. Bars and restaurants, theaters, right? Weddings. I know 4 different people that went to 4 different weddings this last weekend. Now, this is starting to tick up, even though a lot of people are not really vaccinated fully. I think what's still happening right now is people are starting to move over to these things because they're probably less expensive. Maybe they've gotten moved from a year ago. A couple of these weddings were replacement date weddings. Some of them were out and out new, and they're like, well, we could have, you know, my niece could have done it, but it was like half the cost of what they think it's going to be in the summer, so they wanted to get the wedding in, kind of thing. So I think you're going to see a lot of the communal stuff. And I also think that all the get me out of the house stuff, right? So not everything that took a hit a year ago is going to swing back the same way. Hospitality, the hotels, all that good stuff. My wife texts me every day, can we make a trip to wherever? I'm so jealous our friends are. I was like, listen, not until after I'm fully vaccinated and after. I don't even want to think about it. I got stuff, we're busy at work, right? Leisure travel is going to be a big deal. Business travel is going to go up, but it's not going to go up back to where it was normally for obvious reasons, right? And we'll talk about this in a minute. Airlines, automobiles, other things like that. I think those are going to all have huge upticks in the upcoming months. However, I don't know if you guys, you ever, I know I talk a lot, but there was a story I gave you about when I watched the sunset in Hawaii. Many years ago, I was there with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and the one evening I sat out there in Kauai and I was looking at the sun set, and it was really awesome. And then the next day I went out there, I was on the beach and I had my Talisker and my cigar, and I watched the sunset, and now I can never watch the sunset without the cigar and the scotch or the martini or the whatever. And my barometer was changed, right? Because like I can't unsee that anymore. I can't, right? I now have a new barometer, right? My new normal, I hate the expression, but like for watching the sunset. Well, also, the similar thing happens for a lot of you. You know that, same thing with employers, right? So what I would say is, on the one hand, get me out of the house, right? That applies. But on the other hand, I would say not so fast, because I want to work from home. And working from home has a domino effect. So it's not that, oh, well, the employers now have a new normal and they know that their people could be at home and they could be working productively. Yeah, that's just something that they should have known before but never tried. Okay, I'm talking now. You're at home, and you're at home a lot more. I know people who are remodeling bedrooms to make them offices, right? I know people who are moving homes because they want to go to another home because it has an office like this, right? A big reason why I bought this house was because it had this office, and I envisioned all of this. Well, a lot of people that are now doing more work from home, what are they doing? So they're constructing, right? Or they're building new homes, or they're buying new homes and building them the way they want, or, right? Remodeling the home office, right? We already talked about the gyms in the house. I now have a whole pain cave in my basement that I didn't have, say, a year and a half ago, but we really put, everything's in there. The treadmill, my bike, my wife's Peloton, all the weights, all the stuff, all the things we can hang from the wall, whatever. Like, right, all that stuff is changed, but so has the sentiment about working from home and the physical constructs that need. So the construction industry, if you're in real estate, now commercial real estate, I mentioned a year ago, was going to take a hit. I still stand by that, because I think commercial real estate is different than houses. So I do think that if you're in real estate, you're selling homes, those kind of things, refinancing and all that other good stuff, that's gonna continue to thrive. So those are some areas. And then I would also tell you that I'm just a white collar kid from a blue collar neighborhood, and I have a soft spot in my heart for the manufacturing sector and the supply chain sector, and it's probably my engineering background and that I'm APIC certified or whatever. But things that are manufactured products. There are things that I wanted to buy that production lines slowed down because they weren't absolute necessities. They're just things I used a lot of. So what was happening from a supply chain standpoint was a lot of things were going to JIT and more just in time. Now what I would tell you is I think the supply chains are going to change, and they're going to go more to the JIC, just in case. So little inventory surpluses, but I do think supply chain and logistics operations are going to go up. I think product manufacturing is going to go up. I don't think that's a huge shock, but I do think that these are sectors that, well, they're paramount in everything that we do. So I think that they are, we rely on them so that they are gonna thrive. So those are some areas. Not yet, there were a lot more. But I wanted to try to tie this together to my observation in some of the markets and how these were going to affect you. Now I want to shift the talk, and I want to move into, okay, well, all right, Andy, that's great. But what does that mean for me when I get into the interviews? Now I've kind of got two waves here. One wave I'm going to give you today, and then one wave I've saved for my private group coaching tomorrow. I really want to talk about things I want you to make sure you're paying attention to and that you are remembering as you go into interviewing processes and you get down to the end of interviewing processes, and the way in which you search for and based on your requirements include or eliminate opportunities. Okay, so let's roll into that. Can I get a, I've been talking for a long time. Can I get a hey from my team that all is good and everybody's still with me and there's people here and somebody's listening to me? All right, let's talk about some of the shift with the employers. All right, now, this is not, we always like the remedial stuff to start. All right, many employers are gonna want the WFH people, right? The work from home people. You know this already. The more remote ready you are in situations where employers are going to continue to stay remote, you're going to be in great shape. I know I get a question a lot about, well, Andy, should I add that I work remotely on my resume, or should I put, that these were remote positions and this and that? You can put that on your resume. I don't know that it's going to make a huge hill of beans of difference. You could put in your career profile or somewhere, in your resume that you are, you're fully remote operational or whatever. But I do want you to be able to, as you are looking at opportunities, make note of, I didn't say eliminate or add or whatever, just make note of, are they actually advertising a work from home position? And I'm gonna tell you in a few numbers why that's so important. Okay, so wait, so that's probably not anything that you don't already know. And this is something else that I have been preaching forever. And I really was preaching it last March, April, May, and so on. But I'm really still preaching it now. And I want you to be super careful about your target company list. And on this point here, I want you to keep it as wide as possible. So even if you have particular requirements about where you want to live, what industries you want, whether you're willing to travel, whether you're not willing to travel, and all that other stuff, I want you to go as wide as possible with your target company list, and I want you to filter it on the back end, meaning don't eliminate a company because the job description says travel 50%. We're located in Wichita, Kansas. You need to be here. Okay? Don't do that. I would still 100% go at companies like this, because companies are about to go through a rude awakening and a shuffling of people based on what companies are and are not willing to do as it relates to their flexibility with their employees. That is a huge point. Okay, you have to realize this is paramount. Organizations are going to lose people because of changes they're making, which opens up slots for those of you like you who are probably looking to find a position. So let's get into a little bit more detail. I want you to keep your list wide. Keep it really wide, okay? As much as possible. Filter them out on the back end. And then here's what's going to happen. I want you to make sure that you watch for the vacancies. You know the WFH, but the WAO employers, they're going to lose people that have gotten comfortable and probably spent a lot of money remodeling the bedroom to make it their home office that they're now not going to get to spend any time in. So what's going to happen is employers who are less flexible are going to lose employees who they now want to return to work. Okay, so in your line of questioning, you need to make sure that you understand what the policies actually are. But I actually have a feeling that what's going to happen is employers are going to start losing some people, and then they're going to start making some accommodations. So the thing I want some of you that are currently employed, generally like what you're doing, if you start to see this, don't react hastily. Okay, because your employers will probably want you to come back to the office, and then if people start quitting, they're probably going to relax those standards. Okay, so my message to you here is I want you to be careful. Wait, but not just this. This is a whole theme for all of these that I'm taking you through. I want you to be careful. I don't want you to be rash in your decisions. I don't want you to have an itchy trigger finger unless you want to, unless it's like, look, I'm really done with that. Okay, but if you're not quite sure, it's more prudent not to do anything unless you're sure. When you're sure, then you go. Okay, in all meanings of the word. Okay, and then the other thing is business travel. I do not think that business travel is going to skyrocket. I think it's going to take a little bit of an uptick. But this point A, are you flexible or not? So you could, let's talk about both of them. Andy, I am flexible. I'm willing to travel a ton. I'm not willing to travel. That's it. I'm so happy being home. I like seeing the kids and so on. Let's take both scenarios. If you start to look at job descriptions and it says, 50% travel, and you're thinking, I can only really travel 20, you go. Okay, meaning it's nice that they say 50% travel, but you haven't gotten in there and filtered it out on the back end. And I'm going to give you a little story about Joe. So I want, my point to you is, if you have a requirement that says, I don't want to travel that much, do not eliminate opportunities where the travel component is high. Okay, that might be residual, that might be a pipe dream, it might be what they used to require in the way of traveling. Still go in. All right, so if you're saying, well, should I apply? I'm not really sure. Go, okay? Now, if you're not flexible, okay, that's what I mean. That if you're not flexible, you do that. If you are flexible, then what you need to do is use it to your advantage. So when you go in there, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to come in every single day. I'm willing to fly all across the world for you. I'll do anything you need to, and then use it to your advantage. So pick and choose what you do based on your requirement. But my main message to you is don't eliminate things on paper because of your requirement. A lot of you do that. I know you do that. You don't submit your resume, you don't target the bosses, you don't chase them when you should, okay? And then the other thing is at the high travel stuff, I have a job search boot camper, Joe. This was the guy with all the offers. And Joe is awesome. He runs, I don't know, Joe, if you're here, hey, he had his own business for a long time. And he sold his business to a larger company, and then after a few years of facilitating that process, he decided to leave. So he's not employed right now, and he wasn't really sure how to bring himself to market. He gets with me in the boot camp. We do a resume review of his material, and then we did a coaching session with him. We did one coaching session to help him with his interviews, and he was interviewing with entrepreneurs and small startup companies, and he was interviewing with large companies, and then I also turned him on to interview with, I wanted him to target franchises, for him to run one. About a week or two later after our session, all of a sudden he emails me back. He says, okay, I did everything you said. I can't believe what happened. I never would have thought about the franchises. That in and of itself was worth the price of the coaching session, because now I got 2 more leads and these are going to turn into offers. I've got all these offers. Can we get together next week? So when I get the other 2 offers, we can get together and talk it through. One of the offers, now Joe has requirements where he does not want to travel a lot, if at all. He would rather be home and work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, because he's got other side jobs he wants to do. So he said, it was 50% travel, but we talked it through, and the owner realizes that we don't really need to do that. So something that I would not have looked at, I'm going to get an offer, and it's my favorite one, right? This little piece of advice right here could completely change the way in which you look at opportunities. 2 more offers. Because of having a session, and I told him, you need to go look over there. Don't worry about the requirements. Don't worry about the don't worry. I know you have these things. Don't worry about them. And so this is not something I would always say to you. I'm saying it to you now because now it really matters. It's applicable now and in the next 100 days, let's say. Okay, because I'm not, in 100 days, I'm going to have another prediction because I'm going to know a lot more in 3 months than I know today. But this is what I think right now. So I want to make sure that you are not eliminating these things because these are the ones that knock you out before you start. Okay, wait, I got another one here. This is a sticky one. This goes back to my housing story and my buddy Mark next door who sold his house in 5 minutes. Watch the reloads. Okay, we're going to go through this here. Now, first thing I said was keep your target list open and wide. Yes, yes, yes. Because some companies, when you get in there, you can change the way they think about who can do that, where they can do that from, based on the skills you bring to the table, right? And I don't want to go too much into it, but from the time you start the interview process to the time you finish the interview process, you might think your goal is to get a job offer, and I would say no. Your goal is to get a job offer with a company you love, and along the way between the time you start and the time you finish, it's to completely change the way they think about what it is that they're going to do and how much they're willing to pay for you to do it. Okay? You're going to change, right? The paradigm, you're going to change the way they think because now I can't unsee you anymore. I can't unsee the new vision I have of what this role can be. And for that, I'm willing to pay more. Okay, so I want you to make sure you're looking anywhere, and then I want you to watch the packages. This is what's going to happen. Okay, I spent time telling you about the housing market for a reason. All right, so when you go into the process, it might say on a JD, no relo offered. In the screen, we don't offer relo. Bunk, nonsense, ignore that. I don't care what you call it. If you can make it up in sign-on bonus, back-end bonus, salary, this and that, and so on, that to me is a good thing, right? You go in, and I want you to make sure though that you're keeping some things in mind when you get through this. Okay, when you get through the process and you get down to the end, and they say, "All right, this is great. Hey Andy, we want to hire you." There's going to be certain parameters as it relates to you moving. And here's the things I want you to watch out for. How long before I actually have to officially move? Like, because you could start your job from your remote city. That's one thing, time frame. You've got how much you can spend on me to move. How long do I have to wait? What's the retribution period should I leave? If I leave within a year, do I have to pay it all back? If I leave within 2 years, do I have to pay it all back? These kind of things. There's also things such as how much money they will give you in a daily stipend or to pay for an apartment or rent or whatever when you move. Okay, you want to make sure, based on what I'm telling you, right? What's the expression? Right now, inventory's low. If you got to move and you got to buy a house, how's the expression go? If you got to sleep on it, you won't sleep in it, right? Kind of thing. So you're acting really fast. You don't want to put yourself and back yourself in a corner where you actually have to do that. You want time where if you maybe put a bid in on a house, it doesn't go through. Right? Is the employer going to give you enough insurance dollars, not technically insurance, but you know what I mean? Are they going to insure with you that you will have a certain amount of time before you need to officially move or before the temp housing fees stop or whatever? Are they going to buy your house from you? If they buy your house from, this happens a lot, right? Hey, we want to move you from Florida to Chicago so you can work with me. I'll buy your house and then I'll sell your house for you. 42% of houses are selling for more than their asking price. What are you going to negotiate with your employer to buy your house? When you move to Chicago, how much time is Andy going to give you to live in a hotel or live at the Residence Inn or wherever or move your family? Or can you just stay where you are until you sell your house and then you're ready to move here? Okay, got two quick stories for you. Justin, I've talked about Justin in a number of different capacities, but one of the capacities, he was in Connecticut, he was going to be moving, and he got his job in the middle of the pandemic, and normally they say, well, executives need to move within 2 months. He said, well, I just moved my kid into a new school, and I want the stability for him. I don't want to move him out. They said, okay, 2 years. As long as you move within 2 years. All right, think about that. That would have been unfathomable had he gotten that job 6 months prior to when he did. I have another, actually a VIP coaching client, Shri. He's in Nashville, and he was getting job offers in New York and in Florida, actually near the Clearwater, Tampa area. And he said, Andy, they're really putting heat on me in Florida. I've even got to take a trip this weekend with my wife to look at house. This is a number of months back. A handful of months back. And he said, I'm getting really nervous because they're really putting pressure on me. This other opportunity isn't going to come through quite when they need it to. Maybe it's just a few days late. It wasn't a long time, but it was this other company. They had itchy trigger fingers. He had to go down. He's looking at houses. They say, listen, we need to know right now. He said, I can't give you an answer today, right? And they're like, and we need you to move in like a week, and you need to be down here, kind of thing. So what happened? He ended up taking the other job in New York, which actually was a better job anyway, but the point of the story is they said, don't even worry about it. We don't even put a time frame on. If you could commute, kind of be here X number of days a month, and you leave your family in Nashville, let the kids, graduate from school, do what you got to do. And so you want to make sure that you are considering these things, because your ability to move, dump your house, you might be able to dump your house, and then you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you've got to go to a new city and actually, you're losing out on your bids because people are outbidding you, or you're putting pressure on yourself just to have a house, because you're going to end up losing money if you don't love that house and you're going to sell it a year later, right? So just Think about these things. Now, let me just recap it with this. I gave you a bunch of these things, right? These industries. Pharma, talked about fashion and retail, right? This kind of stuff, hospitality, and so on, right? Now, I am not saying that every single part of every one of these industries is going to thrive. There are still going to be slower recovery processes. I think about, I tell my wife, you'll never get me on a cruise. Okay, it doesn't matter. I just don't want to be on a cruise. I don't want to be tied up. I don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere. It's just a thing with me. Okay, and I know people, they love the cruises, but if it requires a passport for everybody, meaning a vaccination passport for everybody in order for the ship to sail, so to speak, that might be a little slower process. Throwing together your conventions, that might be a little easier, right? So I want you to think about that. It's not every single area within every single sector or subsector. It's just in general, I'm telling you, there are going to be pickups in these. So then it's up to you to make sure that you take this information that I gave you, take the observations that I gave you, and you start looking at and thinking about, how is my situation going to be affected? What can I do to make a shift, right? And then what would be the consequences of that? All right, so folks, I don't know how long that was, but I had a lot to unpack there. And so I hope you enjoyed that.